Christine Marie is a whole entire superhero out here. And my prayer is that anyone who's disenfranchised, abused, suffering at the hands of predators would have a Christine Marie in their life.
Only apply that. Get it, don't be timid when you ain't apply that. Love a bone, give along, leave it. I don't want no trip, baby, say like it's
My name is Ashley, and this is My Sweet Perspective, where I give my take on all things TV and movie related, and I am here to put you on, okay? Intro, you guys, welcome back to the channel. We are back today to talk a brand new 4-part documentary that aired on Netflix just yesterday entitled Trust Me, The False Prophet. And listen here, this start to finish was excellent. I don't know what's going on this week, but almost every single show that I have watched has fed me. But this is probably the most important show that I've watched. Christine Marie moved into a cult community with her husband, started secretly recording a self-proclaimed prophet, admitting to his crimes on camera, handed the footage to the FBI after the local police were just useless, and brought this man down. Do you hear me? And she still lives there, continuing to do work in the FLDS community. A real life superhero is not an exaggeration, and we need to talk about this. All right. So, again, this is something that I could not stop watching. I don't know. If you know me and you've been here any length of time, you know that I love a true crime moment. I'm always going to watch a true crime, a documentary. But what you may not know is that I've always had a fascination with cults, how they draw people in, why people stay, and all of those things. And so when I saw this pop up, I knew I had to watch it, all 4 hours of it, and it was worth every single minute. So first, let's start out with who did this. What is this doc and who made it? This was directed by Rachel Dresden, an Emmy and Peabody award-winning filmmaker who also directed Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey, which is also on Netflix. And I know the girlies have raved about it. I never went down into those streets. I don't know. I think I missed the air date, and I just never went back, but this will definitely be on this weekend's watch list. And of course, that was about the Warren Jeff situation. And so this community that Christine basically goes undercover in is who was left after Warren Jeffs went to prison, right? She's known in this world. She knows the community, and context matters enormously for how this story is told. She did it so delicately. And I also think the fact that Christine's husband, Tolgas, is a videographer just lent itself to really fully capturing everyone in their natural element. Again, this is a 4-part series. All 4 parts are out right now on Netflix. It is built almost or entirely around the footage that Christine Marie and her husband captured. One thing about a cult leader, most of them are extremely prideful, have a ton of hubris, and don't think anything can really ever take them down. So when they find out who Christine and her husband are, absolutely come in. We need to get this recorded and documented because I'm that important to the world, right? And so, of course, we end up meeting Samuel Bateman, who is the man who basically took over Warren Jeff's spot in the community. And again, this is not recreations. This is not interviews pieced together after the fact. This is happening to them. And of course, as we're watching it, it feels like it's happening in real time. And when I tell you, she got everything on this man, and the local police failed. But anyway, let's get into it. So the FLDS, and who is Samuel Bateman? The FLDS is Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which is an outlier of the traditional LDS or Mormons, as you may know. And typically they are known for the Little House on the Prairie dresses, for living on compounds, for polygamy, and all of those things, right? And it's a breakaway group. Their leader was Warren Jeffs, who was sentenced to life in prison in 2011 for assaulting, SAing a 12-year-old girl he took as his wife, plus a 20-year sentence for assaulting a 15-year-old. Jeff goes to prison and leaves his community completely on their own, except for these random messages that he would send every now and again. Basically saying since they couldn't have sex, he stopped marriage. So without marriage, without sex, there are no more babies. So they were just really out there floundering. And this idiot, Samuel Bateman, stepped in and took it on. And really, what he did, as childlike and as ignorant as he comes across, there was something that was almost intelligent about how he manipulated the people there. He found some exiled people who were from the community that Warren Jeffs had personally exiled and brought them in. And basically, that, I guess, gave them their testimony that he was now the prophet. He was the right one, because, of course, he now embraced these people who had been living in exile, right? He was a former rank and file FLDS member who in 2019 decides he is the prophet now, the heir to Warren Jeffs. God is speaking through him. And because this community was conditioned to obedience, people immediately followed. And again, it didn't hurt that you had some people that were there co signing this because they were now being welcomed back into the fray. He amassed followers across Nebraska, Colorado, and Arizona, and he started taking multiple wives, including girls as young as, yes, 9 years old. As his power grew, so did his depravity. Again, it starts from this community thing to now all he wants to do is have smecks. Orgies, if you will. He has this bigger home where he has all the wives with him. And he decides, no, we need to take it down to a 2-bedroom because I want y'all all in the same room so that we can do this all together. He started cutting everyone else off, calling them liars and whatever, just so he could fulfill his pleasures night and day. Sickening, right? And of course, these members are giving their daughters to him willy-nilly. One young lady that we meet, Julia, who was the mother of 5 of his brides, and her husband, Maroney, were vital, I guess, in basically procuring young girls for him. And it's sick. Running what he called atonement ceremonies, and the documentary describes all that. So now enter Christy Marie and her husband, Tolga Katis, moved to Short Creek, Utah, originally to support the FLDS community after Jeff's imprisonment. She saw a need and she went into the community. Because I can't rave enough about Christine, because not only did she go there really to help, she meant it. And we've seen over years people talk about, we wanted to go into the community and help and whatever. But I think her example, the blueprint that she did or that she made out there, should be done over and over and over again. Because a lot of times when people say, I want to come in and help the community, it's mouth service. What Christine did is she came in and she created businesses and she said, all right, you're going to learn this. You're going to learn this. You're going to work. You're going to be able to provide for yourself. You're going to gain this level of independence that you never had before. And so slowly she wins over their trust in this community, right? Because at first we don't need help from any outsiders. We don't need you. But ultimately she became a safe haven for a lot of these people in the community. Now, Christine is a cult expert, and she decided to make this her life's work because of her own personal experiences. How at one point in her life, she thought she was married to a prophet, but basically he was human trafficking her, making her have sex with all of these people, saying that it was a part of God's divine plan and that she needed to offer up her body as this sacrifice to other men. Every time that she orgasmed, it was a praise to it was sick, but she fell for it because she was seeking something. And I think people take it for granted and think that it could never happen to them. It can never happen to anyone else. But all it takes is you being vulnerable in a certain moment, and a charismatic somebody steps in and says, I can do this. I can give you this. I can promise this. I can fulfill this brokenness in you. And people can go over there. You know what I mean? So she actually went to school to become a full expert in cults and the psychology of it. So basically, she gets there. She's in the community. She sees Samuel Bateman enter, and she sees what's happening. He's like, listen, we need to do something. They are going to document this man. We're going to cozy up to all the wives, all the women, and I'm going to betray them to save them. Right. And her husband was Johnny on the spot, right there every single step of the way. And he's like, listen, we're trying to stop child SA and trafficking. Listen, it's going to be hard, but we can do this. Christine said, I was so trusted. I wanted to help them before they found out I was a mole. I'm not betraying them. I'm helping them, right? She held the love for this community and the mission to dismantle the man who was destroying them at the same time. That, again, like I said, is a superhero, and I don't use that lightly at all. Next, the evidence and the law enforcement frustration. When this roly-poly police officer said, I didn't revisit that conversation she had with me telling me about the abuses because that's a lot for my sensitive ears and my gentle heart to handle. Sir, are you serious? Honestly, I think there should be investigation into the local law enforcement there in Colorado City. Are y'all in on it? Were y'all participating? Was he giving y'all girls like he's giving the other men of the cult? Because there is no way you had this man on tape admitting to giving these girls out, to essaying these girls, and yes, not enough. Not enough to even make a report and get the babies out of custody. Anybody knows if you call CPS, especially with this sort of allegation, they would come in and do an investigation. Now, later in the doc, Sam says, it's been here and they never found anything, but there could have been something done very early on. And I just hate it. So months pass and there's nothing. And she's like, they didn't give her any direction on what to do, how to pursue it, what information they did need, what would have worked as evidence. And so months go on, months, y'all, 6, 7, 8, 9 months pass, and she's still getting more information. At this point, he's literally confessed to everything, thinking it's a documentary film. FBI agent Don Martin finally comes in. She says she was even bewildered why local police didn't step in sooner, learning the young girls were in danger. Now, she said this really was a case for the FBI, the nature of the crimes. However, she said as local law enforcement, something should have been done. So again, finally, Christine says, listen, let me contact a different agency. She contacts the FBI, gets connected with Don Martin, and thank God for that, because Don said, all right, this is my last case. I'm about to retire. We're going to make this happen. And the two of them together get to work. Do you hear me? She's building it on the side of the FBI, and Christine is still there working in the community, getting all of the information, all of the evidence. Christine is fighting to be believed, fighting to get someone to act, is one of the most gripping and rage-inducing things that you ever see. I was so frustrated. Bay was so frustrated. He's like, what's going on? And I'm saying that's exactly it. So eventually, again, we're going down the path. We're taking our time. We have to get all of our ducks in a row because as of right now, things really look sloppy. And so August 2022 in Flagstaff, Arizona, a routine traffic stop, someone spotted small fingers reaching out of the back of the unventilated Bateman was hauling. Grown people were in there. He had 3 of his young wives in the back with no heat, no air. So someone sees the fingers back there and the traffic stop was triggered, and that's what triggered the arrest. The FBI investigation accelerates at that point, warrants are obtained, and finally a raid happened. Mind you, it's almost been a year after her initial evidence is submitted to local police. So now, after the raid, the girls I'm thinking it's going to be a stand. I'm thinking it's going to be Waco, damn it. She was like, get the AR, AK-50s, or whatever, get them and, go down fighting. And Christine is like, no, I'm going to walk y'all out one at a time. We're not going to have violence and all of that. And so, it's separated. The minors have to go to DCS custody. Now, this was not something that Christine or Agent Don knew anything about. They thought that they were going to be able to take the young girls and have them in a safe place, right? But they take them into a child protective custody or whatever in Phoenix, and their own wives all go to Christine, right? Because she's still the safe place. They still don't know at this point. And at this point, Sam thinks, it's going to be easy. This is going to be quick. This is going to be easy. We're going to do, Z. But after the raid, he's in there. Okay. Girls are now plotting and he's like, you need to get my young ones. All of you belong to me. You're mine. Y'all need to do whatever you can to get the babies back. Why do they go kidnap the babies? And they're on the run hiding. Now, the way everything eventually plays out, I was absolutely here for, because yes, lock them all up. And I get that some of these people were victims as well, but damn it, I'm about the kids. That's my major. So they're in custody. So before the kidnapping of the girls, we find out that the social worker who was working with the girls had handwritten notes saying that our informant, Christine Marie, balls up the paper and throws it in the trash. And one of the younger girls pulls it out, tapes it together, and calls and lets the adult wives know it was Christine. Christine's a traitor, whatever. And I said, what? I hope heads will roll in the social worker office, because how could you be so dumb? How could you be so negligent, in my opinion, to let something like that just go willy-nilly? Why did you even have it written down in the first place? So now she's been outed in the community. So they're calling her, cussing her out. And I said, I don't give a single damn, Christine. You did everything that you needed to do. They can be mad right now. They can want to fight you right now. They can call you a demon, a devil, whatever they want to right now. But ultimately, you did what needed to be done to save these children. Damn everybody else. Okay. So goes to trial, and from jail again, he orchestrates the whole plot, coordinating everything. And of course, we know they'll try to take back women who had cooperated with authorities. The audacity is ultimately staggering, but it didn't work. In December 2024, Sam Bateman was sentenced to 50 years in federal prison, effectively a life sentence, but not effectively enough for me. Because I want you to get 90, 100, 99, 99, 99, 99 years. Okay. His inner of men who were serving lengthy sentences too. 9 of the underage victims were removed from the group, testified against him. All of his minor wives ultimately fold and decide to testify against him. He had them so conditioned. They were writing out these stupid things in repetition. We effing love Sam. We effing love our prophet. It was so sick and disgusting. And so many of them have since graduated from high school. And how amazing is that? And mind you, they're so conditioned. And I think that's the part that a lot of people don't get. And me and Bay had this conversation last night when we were watching. It was like, when your world is this, when you have been raised in this, your mother was raised in this, her mother was raised in this, you are basically groomed to not ask questions, to not buck up against authority, to go along, to give yourself to these old, depraved Epstein-ass men. All right. This is what you do, and you want to hold on to that because that's your normalcy, right? And so I think when you see the girls fighting back early on, it's because that's everything that they knew. And of course, their mothers are still calling, cussing Christine out, everything. So now the women, the documentary does focus on a few of the women afterwards. Of Julia, who's 5 of her girls were with him, that her husband Moroni had basically offered up to this man. And in exchange, Moroni was getting with the girls too, the other girls, and having Smex in the room with his underage children as well. Now, Moroni, which is Julia's husband, ultimately got 3 years house arrest and then 25 years in prison. I think the other men also got 25 years to life, or 25 years and life as well. 5 of his adult wives also went to prison. And we meet again Gnomes, which was his ride or die, his bottom beat, if you will, the one who loved him most. She said at first she couldn't get with him and like understanding what the dynamic was supposed to be. But once she found out like he was her salvation, she threw everything into him. And she said she had a feeling about Christine. She tried to warn him that she thought Christine was the police, and he didn't believe her. And so anyway, she went to prison. Julia's oldest, I think, Marita, goes to prison as well. And I think they do 21 months or something. Gnomes gets out and she's in college now. She said they both basically said prison freed them. It freed their minds. It let them know what was real and what wasn't. And so now they look like completely different women. They look well adjusted, and I'm excited for that. Again, the women of this documentary are everything. Julia turned against her own husband. And at the end of the doc in episode 4, we actually hear Julia say, listen, I can't tell my girls to leave and I'm not willing to leave. So basically, F Moroni. And I said, I know that's right, Julia. Your babies come first. Do you hear me? But she was instrumental in getting the case against them. She was documenting everything, and it worked. So Julia turned against her own husband, looked at what was happening and said, we are following a false prophet and he is leading us to hell and I'm not going there. Director Rachel Dresden called her the heroine of the film, and I actually agree. It was brave. Again, she was ingratiated into that community. Those were her people. And for her to take that stance, and it helped that Christine presented her whole life story to her. She was going on early. Julia was no dummy, and I'm so glad and I'm so grateful she stood up eventually. Naomi Gnomes Bisline, who I was talking to you guys about, who was the bottom B, is something as well. But you have to watch and see it for yourself. But again, seeing her at the end was so fulfilling. Again, some of Bateman's adult wives still believe he's the real wrongly imprisoned. I'm sure they're still putting money on his books. And that is the part. It's the piece that stays with me. Because again, this is everything they know. This is their connection to God. This is their faith. This is, their, eternity of that they're putting that on. It's so sick and it's so sad. They were manipulated and are still being manipulated by this man. And I ultimately hate that. Again, these women aren't weak. They're manipulated by a system that's been running for generations by nasty, filthy, disgusting, greedy men. All right. What makes this doc different? What Rachel Dresden does here is build the story from the inside. Again, there's nothing like seeing the real footage as it's happening of this man and how he manipulated and how he really thought he was that one. He's like, yeah, I plan to be the ruler of North, South America, England. I'm going to marry the Queen of England and everybody's going to obey it. I'm just going to make this world a great place. Again, it's the women's actual testimony, no outsider speculation. There was no hearsay. We got to literally see and hear on both sides. Christine and Tolga still live in Short Creek, still doing the work, and that tells you everything you need to know about who they are. It makes me nervous because now that her anonymity is gone, and I'm sure it's been gone for a couple of years, I've seen that there's been write-ups in major publications, but she'll never be able to do it this way, in this way. But I hope it's inspiring to, right, to do this wherever injustice is happening. But sweet peas, this was a 10 out of 10. Watch it. Tell someone about it. Christine Marie is a real life superhero, and this story deserves to be seen widely. Drop it in the comments. What part hit you? What part outraged you? I want to know, but be sure, please, to like, comment, subscribe, hit the hype button if you have any hype points left. I'd really appreciate that. But yeah, this is definitely one to watch, especially if you fill the gaps in your, but let me know, and I will see you guys in the next video.